And on another note, we have asked you lots of questions about Trump and what impact his impending presidency has on nations and the conversations here. Is there something you can tell us about the feeling perhaps of urgency or of minds more focused at this summit and in the next 2 months to sort of get things done and get things in place before he takes over?
I think there probably are elements of accelerating certain things in the coming months for some, but for the most part, people are being thoughtful about how to position themselves over the coming years in a way that's going to be constructive, beneficial for them, and create opportunities for all their trading partners, including with the United States. It's an approach that is perhaps a little less surprised or anxious than it was 8 years ago when Donald Trump was first elected. I think people know a little more about what to expect and are leaning on examples of countries like Canada that managed to navigate successfully through win-win renegotiations of our most important trade deal as examples of the kinds of constructive work that we can do to grow the economy and benefit citizens in our countries.
En français.
Dylan Robertson, the Canadian Press. Question for the three of you at the podium. I was wondering about countries turning to Canada for advice on how to navigate a second Trump presidency. Who's asking us?
I think they're generalized conversations. People know that Canada has had a certain amount of experience dealing with various American administrations, and specifically our government navigated in a win-win way through the first Trump presidency. People are sharing notes, asking for advice, and we're happy to talk about our approach that is grounded in demonstrating that middle classes in both of our countries can do well when we work together.
You won't specify the region or if these are G7 or other partners, I take it. And my other question is about, you mentioned there being less anxiety because we've navigated Trump before, and I wanted to sort of get your thinking here. There's a pervasive feeling in the US that Trump will be more able to execute his agenda. He sort of ruled out the people that would prevent him from moving forward on these things. There's sort of more anxiety among that thinking in the US, and I'm just wondering, how do you square that with being less anxious as a government?
Well, I think there is a sense, and I don't want to get too much into analysis or opinion here, but there is a sense that that this is something, this is an administration that has an approach that is less unknown than it was back in 2016. There are potentially some very challenging consequences of some of the decisions that may be made, but I think a lot of countries are focused on building up resilience and capacity to respond to those challenges, as opposed to wondering whether or not those challenges are going to materialize. I think people know those challenges are going to materialize, that Donald Trump is someone who tends to do what he says he's going to do, and that means people are going to be able to think about how to position themselves best given some of those things that are coming. And that wasn't necessarily the sense back in 2016.
Thank you. This is what concludes today's press conference. Merci beaucoup.
Tout le monde.
Question.
Hola, Prime Minister. Judy
Hola,
Trin
Judy.
with CTV News. I'd like to ask a question in regards to your meetings with APEC leaders and their perceptions as to what to do with a Trump administration that does not support climate change initiatives, that does not support the advancement of women's rights. It is something that you have championed in your tenure as Prime Minister. Do you see those issues falling by the wayside as nations scramble to make trade deals with the U.S. and keep on the side of Trump?
Well, first of all, APEC is a gathering of 21 economies with an economic focus. And we have demonstrated over the past years in Canada that we create that economic growth by signing good trade deals that demonstrate that the growth created by that trade will be more equitably shared with vulnerable populations, with indigenous populations, that will protect the environment, that will create opportunities for women. These are things that we've built into our economic approach in a way that has borne fruit. And, for example, in our most recent trade deal signed with Indonesia, that's a part of it as well. So for us, we see that standing up for values, standing up for women and marginalized peoples are integral to creating a strong economic narrative. Now, every country gets to set its own priorities, but as I've always done, I'll stand up for Canadian values and interests while protecting Canadian jobs and working constructively with other countries, even when there are points of disagreement.